when a little boy named Max got lost in the woods. What was probably the worst-case scenario out of his parents' nightmares unfolded. Not only did the boy stay in the forest without adult supervision for 3 long days, but he was found by a bear. But how is it possible that the child emerged from this terrifying situation alive and well? After 3 days, a national park ranger finally tracked down Max. But when he was confronted by a giant bear, the man was forced to make a quick decision. There's that growl, he later recalled. I was hoping I misheard, but Tim knew that sound all too well. Grizzly bears common in this park make this growl. Visitors are advised to absolutely not approach these dangerous animals. But when Tim's tracking dog insisted and pulled the man towards the snarl, there was no turning back. For the sake of the lost child, he had to take a risk. After following the tracking dog for a few minutes, Tim finally spotted what he was looking for: Max. The boy appeared to be in good health, with a few scratches that did not appear to be serious. But then the man realized what was standing right behind Max, and he knew that his ears hadn't deceived him moments before. And to better understand how Tim and Max ended up in this dramatic situation, we need to go back a few days and explain some important facts. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Max is a 6-year-old boy. He grew up in a small American town in North Carolina. The state is rich in dense forests, swamps, and caves. Tourists often come here to enjoy the untouched nature. Naturally, there are plenty of wild animals living here. Bears are especially a problem. Max lived close to wild nature from birth. His parents, Chloe and James, had a house on the edge of the forest. Max often played near the trees. The young parents were very happy that their child had the opportunity to grow up surrounded by nature. It was until an accident happened. It was a weekend, so Max's parents decided to sleep late and the boy didn't have to go to school. Max knew how to make himself a bowl of cereal and play at home by himself for a while. And so his parents didn't think he would get into trouble without direct supervision. But that morning they heard a noise outside that completely woke them up. What was that? Max's mother, Chloe, got out of bed and went to look out the window. When she looked outside, she saw nothing, but she still felt a pang of anxiety in her chest. So she opened the window but heard nothing else. For some reason, she felt deeply uneasy, so she convinced her husband that they should search the house together for the source of the noise. She also wanted to make sure that her son was okay, so she went, as she thought, to wake him up in his room. However, she was horrified to discover that the boy was not there. Neither there nor in the whole house. While Chloe and James were frantically searching the house, hoping that Max was just playing hide and seek with them, someone rang their doorbell. It happened so suddenly that they both jumped in surprise. Who could have come so early? Maybe Max was playing a joke on them. Meanwhile, their neighbor was waiting outside the door with a concerned expression on his face. He informed them that he saw Max running into the forest. What's worse, it happened because he chased after a wild dog that had appeared in the clearing moments earlier. This behavior was completely unlike Max. The man said it happened so quickly that it was a miracle he even saw the whole thing. He wanted to catch the boy, but it was too late, so he ran here to inform his parents about everything. Now it was up to them to take action. They both couldn't believe that something like this could happen and were very worried about their son, Max, a 6-year-old boy, alone in the forest with a wild dog. While James and Chloe ran into the woods to look for their son, their neighbor returned to his home to call the authorities. He reported the boy missing because in such cases, even if they turn out to be trivial, it is better to be extra careful and act quickly. Of course, the police immediately recognized the seriousness of the situation and said they would deal with it appropriately. Max's parents spent the rest of the day looking for the boy. They were well acquainted with the terrain of the forest surrounding them, but they knew what to watch out for. But they also took more risks than usual. They were determined to find their son as soon as possible. At one point they found what looked like a newly trodden path. They weren't sure if the trail was made by small legs or the animal's paws, but it was the only clue they had found so far. They decided to follow the trail of whoever had passed this way recently. James and Chloe followed the trail for a long time until they finally came to a small ditch, but the trail ended there. In the middle of the forest, it is sometimes difficult to tell what time it is, but James and Chloe were well aware that it was late and slowly starting to get dark. They literally spent the entire day looking for Max and didn't see him once. But they found an important item that gave them hope in their search for Max. Max's jacket was lying on the edge of the ditch. The trail they were following, however, belonged to Max. It gave them a lot of hope that the boy might be nearby. They called for him, but he didn't answer. They had no idea how long it had been since Max had been here. They crossed the ditch to see if there would be a trail on the other side. Unfortunately, on the other side of the ditch it became clear that the trail led no further. James and Chloe kept searching, but to their regret, they couldn't find any more traces of Max. It got really dark at this point. Neither parent had a flashlight with them. Eventually, they had to turn back. However, all was not lost. When a child gets lost, there are people who are ready to help very quickly. It soon became clear that the police were developing a detailed action plan to find Max as quickly as possible. A massive search was carried out. Help came from almost every side of the street, as concerned neighbors and tourists in the area also joined in the search. Over the next few days, the area was thoroughly combed by volunteers and professionals with sniffer dogs. But unfortunately, there was no trace of Max. How did it happen that he disappeared like a stone into water? But after 3 long days of searching, people were starting to lose hope. After all, the missing boy was only 6 years old, he wasn't even wearing a jacket, and the nights were getting colder. People worked in shifts. Suddenly, one of the tracking dogs signaled that he was on the boy's trail. Tim the forest ranger and his dog have done this several times. From time to time, people get lost in the forest. The man trusted his dog very much, so when the animal suddenly signaled that it had picked up a scent, the man felt hopeful. But when the dog began to growl, the old man wasn't sure if it was really the scent he was looking for. Both the man and his dog knew that there were wild bears in the forest. It was dangerous for them to walk through the forest alone, but they were too far from the next group to signal what was happening. The 6-year-old's life was at stake, so Tim had to make a choice. After quite a long hike through the forest, the dog led Tim to the edge of a small cave. There was really no turning back now. There was only one way to find out if the boy was actually inside. Then the man suddenly heard a noise. He couldn't identify it because the cave distorted all sounds. Was it the roar of a wild bear? His heart started beating faster. Nevertheless, he decided to persevere and look deeper into the cave. Then he made a shocking discovery. He found bear tracks. Could there be bears deep inside this cave? It would make sense that they would seek refuge here. Tim heard the sound from a few seconds ago again. However, his dog still gave signs that Max was nearby. Then the man made the most important discovery. Max was sitting in the corner of the cave. The boy was dirty and hungry, but he could have looked a lot worse. The man approached Max, and then the boy said something very unusual. The boy said that he had survived in this cave thanks to his new friend. He was the one who brought him to this cave and kept him warm at night with his warm fur. His friend was a bear. Tim was shocked. And would something like this actually happen? Or maybe the 6-year-old was just making things up or having hallucinations? There were indeed a lot of bear tracks in the cave. In addition, the boy's good health in such conditions was almost a miracle. Then there was a growl nearby. Without wasting time or relying on luck, Tim quickly led the boy out of the cave. Several times on the way home, they heard the rustle of leaves behind them. Was it the bear Max was talking about, or another wild animal? Tim chose not to convince himself. As soon as he could, he notified the rest of the search party that the boy was with him, unharmed and almost healthy. Max's parents cried with happiness. At first, no one told James and Chloe what exactly happened. All they learned was that Max had been found in a cave. To take every precaution possible, authorities ensured that Max was taken for a checkup after he and the man who found him returned from the woods. Wasting no time, the boy's parents jumped into the car and followed the ambulance that was transporting their son. When they finally saw Max, they hugged him in their arms for a long time. He was in surprisingly good shape. When asked about his experiences, the boy repeated his extraordinary story to his parents. Plus, Max said he wanted to go back to the cave. Why? Because he really missed the bear. Was the story Max told really true? Was it the drugs that made Max say such things? Tim, the boy's rescuer, confirmed that Max had talked about the bear in the cave. He also mentioned tracks, growling, and rustling leaves. The boy claimed that the animal's fur kept him warm, saving his life. Is it possible that the bear treated Max like his cub? To this day, it remains a mystery whether the bear actually saved Max. Strange things happen in the forest all the time. Max's bear story isn't even the most unbelievable of all the ones circulating in the region. The incident took place 5 years ago. Everyone takes Max's words seriously and tries not to show any doubt. Max is now 11 years old. He still claims that he was saved in the forest by a wild bear 5 years ago. There isn't enough evidence to disprove this theory, so most people just believe him. The boy is healthy and still plays at the edge of the forest from time to time, but he never goes deep into the forest alone.